So now that that's over with, there's been a lot of talk about the Cleveland Browns and a new stadium. And we all know that this is going to be, I think, a talking piece for the rest of this year, all of next year, until we know concrete what's going on with the Cleveland Browns. Jimmy Haslam came out and said that there was two options on the table. One being a $1 billion renovation of the current Cleveland Browns stadium, the other being building a dome outside of downtown Cleveland that would cost double what a renovation would cost. You know, by now you've seen some of my takes about how I feel as far as, people in the city of Cleveland, taxpayers that is, being asked to foot the bill for a new stadium. On Friday's show, when I was producing, I alluded to the fact of, the average median income for a resident of the city of Cleveland, and how the city of Cleveland ranks top 3 as one of the poorest major cities in all of the country. And I get it. There's more than one way to skin a cat. But let's say hypothetically that they being the city, the mayor, whoever makes these decisions, they came up with a plan that they can raise money to go towards a new stadium without it costing taxpayers money. I say, okay, kudos, that's cool. But you still run into two issues. One issue being you still really don't have a place to put a stadium at right now, downtown Cleveland. And then the other, which is to me as an emotional take, but it's really how I feel, man, if you could raise that type of money with all these different extra creative ways to go towards a stadium, that money can go towards, education. That money can go towards the police department. That money can go towards fixing some of these potholes in the streets. That money can go towards, I don't know, helping the homeless out a little bit more. We have some issues in this city that I think just weighs a little bit more than a new Cleveland Browns stadium downtown Cleveland. And if I'm being more honest with myself, the more and more I think about it, I think the more that I'm becoming comfortable with the Cleveland Browns playing in the surrounding suburb, building a dome in Brook Park or wherever else. Because when I think about it, right? So I grew up in Cleveland, stayed in Cleveland. Most of my adult life, I've stayed either in Euclid or Cleveland borderline, on that border. And when I go shop, I go to Menor Mall. When I go shop, sometimes I go to Great Northern. There's a place that I like to hang out on and kick it at. It's out in Twinsburg. I go drive out there. And I just got to thinking of how much I travel to go to do the things that I enjoy. And I don't bat an eye. I don't blink twice about it. I drive the 30 minutes I have to drive. I go enjoy myself and I go home. And I think that's how some fans need to start looking at a possible Cleveland Browns stadium not being downtown Cleveland. If you stay on the east side, I'm pretty sure if you want to catch a deal, you drive your ass to Great Northern Mall and you go shop and you go eat and you spend some time out there and then you come back home. And you don't complain about driving to Great Northern because you don't live in Great Northern. You go where you want to go. You go where the enjoyment is. And I think that's what you should do. I think that's smart. And so if you can construct your mind and think like that about a possible stadium being in Brook Park, it's a kick. Going to a Browns game is a kick. You kicking it. Look at it like, hey, man, I'm about to go kick it in Brook Park for the day on a Sunday. I catch y'all back around here around 5, 6 o'clock. I think that people need to start thinking outside the box, man. And I'm an emotional dude. So for me to tell you, start thinking facts over feelings, I think that says something because I'm a very emotional human being. So with that being said, I'm really just looking at this situation to where if Jimmy Haslam got the money to go build, Brownstown and Brook Park, and you can say, well, downtown Cleveland, it could be an economical downfall. It could be a tragic, and the city is going to be worse off. Yeah, maybe so, maybe not. But I can argue on the flip side, for all the revenue that they say Cleveland Brown Stadium generate for 10 games a season, has that really, really helped the cause? Has that really helped put more money in teachers' pockets, judges' pockets, cops' pockets? Has that really helped the homeless situation that we got going on here? I think not. I think that if you let Jimmy, build this thing in a surrounding suburb and create businesses around the stadium, that's creating jobs, whether you know it or not. And still that's creating revenue for the county. That's creating it can still work. I guess that's where I'm trying to get to. All this stuff can still work. Deshaun Watson did his annual quarterback unplugged podcast with his QB coach Quincy Avery over the weekend, and he pretty much stated his claim. He talked about the Dome Stadium, and he talked about the city getting the opportunity to grow. So I got two clips that I want to play for you all. This first one is Deshaun Watson talking about the city getting the opportunity to grow. And again, this is courtesy of the QB Unplugged podcast. Check this out.
Like, you got to be able to grow, and you want the city to be able to expand. And I think that, with the Hasms, I haven't talked to them personally about the stadium, but I think in their eyes, they're looking at it like, look, this is the opportunity for us to be able to grow Cleveland, have more events in the off season, host a Super Bowl, concert, WWE matches, boxing matches, like all types of stuff that can actually have that possibility when you create that new stadium dome. But then you see on the other side where, the fans, they like the lake effect, they like the win.
I think that's what a lot of people have been saying. I get tradition, right? And I get some people wanting to keep things how it's always been. But man, if you can just like kind of step into it and not be afraid, there's really some opportunities here with the city to be able to grow, to host more. Man, think about it. That current stadium is the only stadium in the NFL to never host a playoff game. This city has never hosted a Super Bowl. Yeah, they got SummerSlam coming, and that's great. But think about how much stuff is going on, and the beauty of it is, I think Clevelanders and people that live in the surrounding Cleveland area are gonna get a good glimpse of how well this thing can work with a new dome stadium when the women's NCAA Final Four rolls in here next weekend, right? Because there's an elite matchup that's going to take place that's going to guarantee either Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese is going to be in Cleveland. And that's going to draw a lot of attention. That's going to draw a lot of money. Hotels around the city of Cleveland is already being booked up left and right. And so, like, I just think that next weekend, it can give people an idea, okay, this is dope. This can work. Maybe the Browns should go out to Brook Park and build that. And you know what? Driving the extra 10, 15 minutes, excuse me, it's not going to really hurt me like that. And, Deshaun Watson was asked about what he wants. And our starting quarterback, our franchise quarterback, he stated his case. Take a listen to this.
I mean, it's definitely an advantage. Like, if anybody can sit here and say that it's not an advantage, especially for quarterbacks to play inside in a warm, you're crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, dry ball and being able to throw the ball without no wind or no lightning or rain, nothing is definitely key. But so I would say if I had to pick, of course, I'm going to go to the dome and the new facility and the lights and all that stuff. That's going to bring more money to the city, but it's going to have the team even more excited. But if they redo the stadium on the lake, it's not going to be bad either because, people hate coming to Cleveland and playing at that stadium. It's one of the toughest environments to play in, and, we're going to use it to our advantage. So I get that side too. But at the end of the day, you still got to play football. So if I had to pick, I'm choosing the dome. I'm rocking with the dome. I'm rocking with the new lights and all that stuff and the turf, grass, whatever we pick. That's what I'm going with for sure.
There it is. There it is. Now, me, I agree with half of what he said. I don't agree with the whole, if they want to renovate the current stadium, that's cool too. I listened to Jim Donovan being the voice of the Cleveland Browns on Cleveland Browns weekend. And he talked about the game, the season before last against the New Orleans Saints, where it was frigid cold. I think that was the Christmas Eve game, etc. And he talked about how dangerous the walk was just from the parking lot to the stadium. And he talked about, like, not only that, when you get on the stadium, you're literally feet away from a great lake. And you can act like you the toughest man in the world, and you can act like, old school, this is what football is like. But are you really willing to take your kid out in that type of weather? Like, think about it. People who don't have a home are in that type of weather and they die. Like, do you really want to be uncomfortable after you just spent your hard-earned disposable income sitting in that type of weather because you just think like it should be this way because this is always how it's been. Like let's not act like that we're not living in the 60s and 70s anymore. Like my grandfather's way of thinking is not how the world works anymore. If my grandfather was alive, God rest his soul, he'll be left behind. Those are just the facts. We got to start thinking outside the box, and we got to start thinking about one, what's better for the city, and two, what's a better product that you want to consume as a consumer. Because at the end of the day, these football players are entertainers. They are here to, break up the monopoly of our every single day life, right? To give us a break from reality, to just flat out entertain us. And if you look at the NFL rules, each year there are more rules being put in place that favors the offense. Our quarterback makes a whole lot of money. We have a very, very expensive team. If you was playing inside on a dome and, like they said, bright lights and natural grass with the glass roof and all that, like, wouldn't you feel better about the product that's out there on the field? Wouldn't you love to see the offense that this Cleveland Browns have being put on display, and that type of environment? Maybe then we don't have to worry about making excuses about weather or this, that, and the third when Deshaun Watson doesn't play his best, right? You indoors. You're kind of limited. You're eliminating an excuse that anybody can have about his play, and I'm just throwing that out there as an example. And so, again, the more that these conversations come about, I think the more comfortable I'm becoming with that. If the Cleveland Browns have to leave downtown Cleveland and they move to Brook Park and they build a brand new dome stadium, you know what? I'm all for it. Ideally, I wish the Cleveland Browns can build a dome stadium somewhere downtown Cleveland. And, they had a plan with the city of Cleveland that would help, put resources into the community and help fix some of the major issues in the city of Cleveland. But that's a pipe dream. And I know that. So it is what it is. I am curious to know some of your takes on that. I'm going to go through some of the comments again, before we take our last break, and we're going to come back and we're going to pay tribute to a cultural icon, because Ultimate 216 Show, that's what we do. We do sports, life, culture. Let's see what Smitty had to say. Smitty says Cleveland will benefit greatly from the stadium in the city. They need to develop the lakefront. Facts, man. I think even if the city of Cleveland took like a immediate hit, if you played a long game and you got a real plan, I think you'll do wonders by developing the lakefront. Let's see what else we got here. We got Terry says it's time for us to move into the 21st century. If we have an owner who has enough vision to make a bold move for a dome, we should get behind it. I 1,000% agree with what Terry just said. We got to move our minds forward into the times that we are currently living in. And for the people who travel to road games with the Cleveland Browns, they come back and they tell you all the time about how much more dope these other facilities are that they get to travel to. And they feel like, man, when we come home, the Browns is just like, left behind. He says, Eastside Hero says, why do we care what Watson thinks? He's barely plays a full season for the Browns. I mean, he's the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, and unless the Browns plan on releasing him, he will be the starting quarterback for the next 3 years. So I think that his opinion matters. He talked about in the episode before that he has a relationship with Andrew Berry. He has a relationship with the owner of the Cleveland Browns, and I get it. There's some frustration because he hasn't played, but come on, man. Like, they're going to get his opinion. They're going to get his input. That's all I'm saying. This man, Eastside, so blind, dude. So Watson, his last game was just a fluke. Yeah, we ain't going there. So somebody said, damn, that's crazy to think that the stadium hasn't hosted a playoff game. Yeah, so like I think some people kind of, they kind of feel where I'm coming from with that. Like, it's time, man. It's time to go do something different. Like, we have to open up our eyes a little bit more than what we have, and just being willing to try some new things. So y'all let me know what y'all think about that. After that, I'm gonna break this up into its own segment. It'll be interesting to see the feedback. Of course, man, tomorrow on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, we are going to have more on that story.